So for January, I do have a book, and I have some copies of the book because Celadon Publishers has very generously sent us 8 copies of this book. And this particular one, it's almost like a leadership book. It's by a Navy SEAL, Never Enough. And once we read it, if we come up with discussion questions that they use, they will give our book group credit for that on their discussion questions. So,
Is it a new book?
yes, it hasn't been published yet. Comes out in February.
Oh.
So we'll be one of the
A
first
local
ones.
Navy SEAL wrote it? Do you know?
His name is Mike Hayes. Let me see. Let me see.
I think I saw him in.
I have his, it says he's the former commanding officer of SEAL Team 2, leading a 2,000 person special operations task force in southeastern Afghanistan. Let's see, he was a White House fellow, 2 years as director of defense policy and strategy at the National Security Council. He worked directly with President Bush, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. He's a graduate of Holy Cross College and Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government. I think he lives in Westport, Connecticut, finally, with his wife and daughter. So I have those. And if you're interested in joining our evening book group, I have a second book. And I did start reading this one. I didn't think I was going to be very interested in it. It's fascinating. And I'm actually gotten a copy of the audiobook through NetGalley, so I'm listening to it. She's amazing. This woman is amazing. So this is Her Honor, the same thing from Celadon Publishers, and it is been published this month, October 2021. And it is, yes, it's her biography, autobiography. And she talks about her career as a judge in California.
And who's her?
Her is Ladoris Hazard Cordell. And she is fascinating. She's a very interesting person. I have to say, I am like 25% of the way through the book, and it's really been better than I expected, because I was like, maybe legal stuff is not really my cup of tea, but she was very interesting. She's been very interesting so far. So I have a couple of those if you're interested in joining us. That's for the evening. Also January.
Mm-hmm.
Just tack it in.
Celadon Publishing local?
It is not local, and it is a part. I think it's a let's see. They always post a lot of great nonfiction books. They probably have fiction too, but I like nonfiction. And I think they're part of a bigger group. So let me see. It is a division of Macmillan Publishing.
Predominantly nonfiction.
The ones that I've read have all been nonfiction. It's an imprint. They also have thrillers and literary novels as well. But the ones I've read have all been nonfiction. So I have those, and I think I have one other order of business, because Mary Green can't be here with us today, but she said to remind everyone of the book club luncheon at the plantation, December 2nd. I don't think she gave me a time.
What day of the week is that?
December 2nd. 2020 is care if it's the 360th day of the year. Let's see. It is a Thursday.
And do we have to sign up ahead of time for that?
I think we need to let Mary know how many people are interested in attending, because she's the person who has kind of been our intermediate there, our contact there.
Is this in lieu of book club, or there's also book club?
We'd also have book club that
Same day, or that just that the regular day?
the regular day.
Okay.
I think what they do, at the book club luncheon, which I've never been to one, but different groups kind of meet and they talk about their favorite books of the year. It's
I've
kind of
been
an
to
anyway.
one. There's many book clubs, about 6 or 7 book clubs
Yeah,
on the plantation.
oh wow, that is a
So
lot.
then they pick their favorites and talk about those. So you get some ideas of
Yeah,
other books
right.
to read. Mhm.
Just keep adding to your to be read.
Yes, so bring a pen and pencil.
Do you know Karen and Dwayne have moved yet?
Sunday.
Oh, they're moving this
Sunday.
coming Sunday.
Mhm.
That's brutal.
And she couldn't come today because she's a dentist appointment.
Oh, okay. Oh, and Mary also asked if I would pass around a sheet for everybody to sign so she knows who's here because she's so
Okay.
awesome and organized and I am so less so.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna close the door.
That's it?
Can we tell her on the sheet if we're coming or not?
Yeah, yeah, I will
Okay.
pass that information along.
Okay, rather than trying to.
Mm, I'm gonna try, I'm gonna be sure.
No, especially the holiday. Are you gonna go to that, Jen?
Yes, certainly. It's just for ideas for books. Oh, thank you.
So we're basically being invited to join the plantation book clubs. Is that what's
Well,
happening?
That's just for this particular luncheon. They're all meet together, like different book clubs meet together to share what they've been reading throughout the year.
Is this just a sign-in sheet? or a
Yes.
Sign-in sheet for the luncheon?
No, it's a sign-in sheet here, but some people, if you want to let Mary
Let
know
her
that you're
know.
interested, I can pass that information along. Cool. And Jennifer so graciously says she would lead today's discussion, and I'm grateful for it.
Okay. Well, I wanted to start off about the author, Matt Haig, who's written quite a few books, actually. And at the age of 24, he suffered from severe depression. And he wrote a nonfiction book called Reasons to Stay Alive, and making the most about one's time on Earth. And so a lot of that is reflected in this book, The Midnight Library. He's married and lives in England with 2 children and a dog. And I even researched his wife as a writer also. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So I wanted to just go around because I don't know, I only know Ruth's name. If you could just say your name and whether you liked or didn't like the book. And your reasons, if you feel comfortable giving your reasons for liking it or not.
My name is Lee, and I did like the book. Thought it was an interesting read. I had lately been thinking about the roads not traveled, so this
Mhm.
really hit home.
Okay.
I wondered if he was dreaming in a coma, or if it actually is a midnight library. which would be
Uh-huh.
kind of cool. And you kind of knew from the beginning that she was going to take the road that she took, but it was still interesting as you got there.
Okay.
That's what I like.
One thing he said was, one of the quotes was, different packaging, same us. You know, we're still the same person, but in a different life, we're still going to be the same. I thought that was interesting. Okay.
Diane Tao. I thought the book was fascinating in that the author is an atheist, but
Oh.
there's so much symbolism in the book. I read it twice, and the second time I just kind of read it slowly and picked out all the symbolic stuff.
Okay.
And I thought it was
How
fascinating.
did you know he was an atheist?
Because I read that. I read all
Right.
about it. I always
Okay.
read about
Authors, okay.
Yeah, before I even start reading the book, so I kind of get enough idea of what, how they were raised.
Did you read anything else by him or
No, not yet.
not yet? Okay. One is called How to Stop Time. I thought that sounded interesting too. Okay. Ruth?
I'm Ruth Kern, and I hated the book.
I knew we were coming to that.
We've already discussed it, but my husband saw the book that Good Morning America Book Club was choosing it. And he came, when I came back in the room, he said, "Oh, you gotta get that book. I think you'll really like it, and then I'll read it." So I bought it, and I read it through the winter, and I disliked it so much that I was determined to finish it, and I would put it down and read another book of my usual genre, and then I'd go back to it. But do you want me to say what you thought? But I couldn't figure the book out, and I didn't like the main character. I didn't like the way it began. She's gonna kill herself. I thought, oh gosh, after all this COVID isolation and all that,
Mhm.
this is what I'm gonna read now. But do you want me to say what you, is it okay if I
Sure,
mention?
sure, because
But
I loved it.
Jennifer-
I loved
And
it.
the reason when I came here for the first time with Karen and I saw this book on here, I said, I have to stick with this book club because I can't wait to hear what other people thought about this crazy book. And then in the meantime, I had a discussion with Jennifer and she said time travel, which I hadn't even thought about that. So then I said to my husband, you'll probably really like it. It's about time travel. But he won't even look at it.
He
I
was.
really didn't like it at all.
Well, what made you not like it?
I did, well, like I said, I didn't like the way it began about her sat
So-
down to kill herself.
Uh-huh.
And I just couldn't figure out where it was going. And
Okay.
it just kind of, I don't know, I guess it was semi fascinating in that it made me, I don't like to not finish books that I start.
Yes,
But
yes.
as I've gotten older, I figured life's too
Yeah,
short.
yeah.
Why waste time
Right.
reading a bad book?
Book.
But no, and then every time I saw someone on television, what they're reading, they'd mention
This
this
book,
and
it's
they
been,
loved it.
yes, a
And
lot
I
of
usually don't
bestsellers.
Read male authors,
Mm-hmm.
but yet I mean, I love like the classic male authors, but modern male authors, other than John Grisham, I'm really not big on it, but I really didn't like it at all. But I'm really curious to hear what you all have to say.
Okay. All right. We're just going around, but we have one more before we'll get to you. And what was your?
Yes.
I'll get a different idea.
Okay.
My name's Amy Gervitz, I also did not like the book. I felt like it was a little bit of Wizard of Oz sprinkled with a little bit of that movie, It's a Wonderful Life.
Okay.
You know, the road not traveled, I understand that aspect of it. I felt like it kind of went on a little bit too long too. And then, you know, here she seemed like she had her perfect life, which then turned out to still not be her perfect life, the one she stayed in for quite a while
Mm-hmm.
with the husband and the little girl. And so I thought, well, what are you looking for? But, you know, I guess I always just feel like you make decisions, you go on in life, and then you deal with those consequences. We don't get that benefit, I guess, to have that window into what could have been, should have been. And I think you'll drive yourself crazy if you.
That's one of the things he mentioned about the regrets, the book of regrets, because you don't keep dwelling on your regrets. Oh, I regretted that I didn't go into this career. I regretted that we kind of felt on that, or don't dwell on that. She was dwelling on it for
She was
sure.
dwelling.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's very negative. Which is what I thought, the whole thing, negativity all throughout the book, which
I got the complete
is.
opposite.
Yeah,
How
I
about?
don't know, I really didn't enjoy it.
Did you finish it?
I did.
You did finish it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good. That's good of both of you to finish it, because sometimes it's perfectly all right. I usually give myself a 50-page rule.
And I finished it before I knew we were going to discuss it. So
Oh.
I finished it.
Good.
I made up my mind I was going to do it.
Mhm.
I want to interject that there's 3 women who's not here, and they dislike the book too. I just wanted to say that.
They didn't
I
like
asked them, they thought I was crazy, and I thought it was fascinating.
Okay,
and they-
three of us liked it.
Yeah.
Very
I
much.
thought it was
Two,
fascinating.
and Michelle, how about you?
When I started it, because I listened to the audiobook, I was like, oh Lord, I'm already in a dark place. And it started out, I don't know, has everybody read it? Because I don't want to put out any spoilers, but when the cat died, my cat died this year. And then a lot of other things. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But I got the feeling that it was kind of like, okay, after she took steps to committing, suicide, she was kind of in limbo, and that's when all this occurred. But I thought it was more of a positive thing, because instead of continuing in a life that's half lived, you know what I'm saying? She decided to go back to the way she was, her own life, her original life, but to have a better outlook and
Mhm.
be more positive, because she was so negative, for the first half of her life that, you know, I just thought it was a more positive thing.
That I was reading a review about this book, a Washington Post review, and that's what this author had, the review had said. The only thing we need to change is the one thing we have complete control over, our outlook. Rather than changing your life, it was your outlook.
Yeah, so I ended up really loving this book and enjoying it, and it wasn't anything what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. And how about our last
Susan.
pardon me, what's your name?
Susan.
Susan. Okay, we went around saying our names.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So, team love.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
But I don't know if it's the author's writing, but I think for me, it gave me a personal connection. Like I think you can, I had trouble with the outset, because my daughter had struggled with suicide. So I'm like, oh, but I did like the concept of, and it kind of, maybe it's the librarian in me, 'cause I know she goes to the library, but I know for me, it was like, okay, it kind of taught me like, yeah, I could just keep complaining about what has happened in my life, or I could go, oh, all right, well, that's done, that's yesterday, and just keep moving on. So for me, it was kind of like more philosophical. I do agree that it could kind of just like, could have been a little shorter, because like all the side things with the time travelers and everything kind of distracted me from what I felt was the same message. The root message of the book was that, yeah, you learn from your mistakes or your triumphs and you move on. And just the book of regrets, okay, close it and just move on. That's my philosophy.
Okay. Well, that was good. So everybody
Yeah, that
came
was
away with a little bit different.
What did you think, Jennifer?
I absolutely love this book because so many times I think back, well, when we moved here from England, my father had moved here, and I always think, what would have happened if we had just stayed in England and we hadn't moved to the United States? I was only 6. And I was talking about this book with my sister, who got pregnant and married her husband after they, and she was saying, what would have happened if she hadn't gotten pregnant? Would she have married her husband, Larry? They're still very happily married, but they were going to such different places, and it was only because she got pregnant that she had that life. So how just on a turn or a decision so quickly, your whole life is changing. And that's what I took out of this book, actually. So, but I love the whole library concept of it. Yes. Yeah, the very beginning quote at the book: between life and death, there is a library, she said. And within that library, the shelves go on forever. Every book provides a chance to try another life you could have lived, to see how things would be if you had made other choices. Would you have done anything different if you had the chance to undo your regrets? Anybody come away with anything about
Well,
that?
I kind of, the way I look when I read books, like you say, you can just pretend you're the character and you are living another life. I think that's the beauty of reading. And I mean, I don't feel I need to go live my life again. I feel if I want, I can be swept away
In a book and have a
novel.
yes.
And or whether it's wonderful, delightful, or if it's serious, like I just finished The American Dirt, and that I thought was very profound. But
Okay,
we won't
yes.
need to talk, but I'm saying
That's
that's a whole
December,
different
right?
experience,
December.
a whole different set of empathy for people. But it's just, I don't know, it was a goofy book, so.
Okay.
It's definitely different.
Those of you that liked it,
Like it. Well, it makes a very good discussion.
does.
If we all liked it, we all liked it. That would be the end.
Right.
So it makes a good discussion when you've got some that and
I
actually
think the
hated
time
it.
Travel thing, did other people pick up the time travel other than
Yeah,
Jennifer?
and I was reading a few books about time travel. That one, I can't remember the title, but it was about this woman that makes a pact with the devil, and she never dies, and she just keeps traveling. And
Oh, is it Outlander?
no, it's not Outlander, but that would be time travel, and the time traveler's wife. So I had read several of them, and I love books about time travel. I just like the whole concept of that. So I guess this kind of fit
Diane
in.
Chamberlain has written a great book about time travel.
Which one?
It takes Diane Chamberlain, she's a North Carolina author.
Oh,
And she wrote, I can't remember the name of it, but it takes place over at the beach. And she wrote,
Interesting.
and
what is
I
that,
don't
Michelle?
I'd have to
I
look at her list of books.
Yes.
But it's fantastic.
It's a
I
good
would
one.
suggest it. I mean, it's a great book.
Okay.
And that gives, that is actually, you can almost think, well, maybe it really does happen.
Okay.
I mean, you know, the Outlander series, that's, you know, that could take you way back to
Another
another
time,
era,
yeah.
but, and it revolves around 9/11 also.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very good.
Okay.
Was it The Dream Daughter?
Oh, that's it from, yes,
The
yes,
Dream
yes,
Daughter,
yes, yes.
Hmm.
That's an excellent
I
book.
like her books a lot.
Yeah.
If we want to discuss time travel
Travel.
more.
Did anybody read The Time Traveler's Wife? A long time ago.
Isn't
Well,
that a movie also?
Yeah, I think
Yes.
it is.
I have to say, I recommended that to my book club I was in in Maryland, and some of those women absolutely hated that book, hated it, did not even want to discuss it. They hated it. So
Wow.
but I loved it. I thought it was a love story. I just absolutely
It's a great book when people are passionate about it.
Yeah,
People love
right.
it or hate it.
hate it. Yes, yes.
I mean, I don't feel like this was truly time travel. Wasn't it described more like parallel
Lives,
And
yes.
something like, see, like, I feel like if you time travel, like you actually.
You're going around and, yeah, that's true. It was
You know,
more
So,
parallel lives.
I don't know, I felt it was a little different than truly time travel, but I guess it would be a hard debate.
Mm-hmm.
I could see a religious aspect to it.
Now, see, I didn't get that. So you
Yeah,
saw that.
because I asked myself, well, who really began the library? So, you know, when we die, you know, nobody has come back and said, okay, this happens or whatever. So maybe she was dead and God gave her another chance to live and set up this library.
Okay. Mhm.
So, and then the symbolism with the seed and the green and, you know, and things like that.
What was the green? I
It was a book covers.
Book covers.
In the library, the green,
Green.
even,
was that like a symbolism?
it's life.
Life. Okay,
Like,
life.
her name is Nora Seed, so she was the
Oh, that's
seed.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
I never.
I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And Susan, before you came in, we were talking about the author, and he's an atheist. He's also autistic. I read that too. And he was very severely depressed, and he wrote a nonfiction. And then this kind of was from that depression time. This one came from that.
Do you think that's why it's so popular because of him? Or do you think it's really, I mean, it's been on a lot of
Oh,
bestsellers.
yes. Yeah, and all the book clubs are doing
Yeah,
it.
it just amazes me that
Mhm.
it's taken off. It's like I didn't realize he had written other things.
Yeah, nonfiction and children's too, right?
Oh, I don't know.
I think I looked up.
Interesting.
Children's.
Oh, some children's books?
Children's books too.
Those must be healthy uppers.
Yeah.
Gosh, well, I did pull a few questions, and these questions are really deep. So sometimes you just read a book to read a story, and then the questions are, as I said, really, really deep. But, stop me if you think it's way too much here. All right, the first one is the Midnight Library is different for each person who enters it. Nora experienced it as a library because of the meaningful relationship she had with Mrs. Elm, her childhood school librarian. Later, we learned that Hugo experienced it as a video store with a cherished uncle instead of a librarian. What do you think your midnight library would be, and who would be there?
I would be a library.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I would still be a
Yeah.
library too, yes.
I'm probably my ninth grade English and Latin teacher was all these years later, I still work with
Teacher.
a remarkable woman who gave me tools that I use right through college.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I would definitely a library or a bookstore.
So similar.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Anybody else?
Again, the same.
A what? A kitchen? Kitchen.
Something like, maybe you could pull out a recipe or something and be inspired by that, the time frame of
That's really
it,
cool.
Mhm.
where you ate it, how you ate it, who you ate it with, or That would be a good time travel. and
Yeah,
stuff.
really
Like,
would.
the
Yes.
grandmother's recipe, be able to go back.
That
and
would
see
really
what
be
her life was like at that
Mm.
time.
Right,
Mhm.
Amy?
All right.
Sorry, next bestseller.
Mine would be a library. I think one of my favorite lines, and I wrote it down, was a librarian is a search engine with a soul.
Oh.
And I think
Oh,
that's.
that's a nice saying to say. Did you make
Yeah.
that up or?
No,
did
it's
you-
It was in the book.
Oh.
That's nice.
Yeah.
When you take out of it, it's like I saw that and I'm like,
Mhm.
I didn't highlight it because I bought the book new, so I don't want to mess it up. But I think that's we sold those, whether it's the kitchen or the library or a bookstore, I think, or a nursery or a farm if you're really into planting. I think that's kind of what I took out of that.
Mhm.
Probably wouldn't be a video store.
Okay.
It's just.
No.
Yeah.
You know, on the note with Hugo hasn't settled down. He's still in limbo.
Yeah.
Mm.
He just hasn't found his niche or something. And then, Nora asked Miss Alma about it. She said, oh, well, Hugo's different. So he hasn't settled down.
I thought about that same thing with him, because then you wonder, well, what would make you happy? What are you ever gonna be happy, you
Yeah.
know? And so,
Mhm.
I think he's just a free spirit.
Yeah, I think we're just doing it for the adventure.
Yeah, and life isn't like it. You can't be a free spirit forever.
No.
No, you don't have any meaning. And so he's just gonna be limbo, I think. And people die and they are.
Mhm. Yeah.
so maybe he's in purgatory.
I don't know.
Mm. So, yeah, we're some religious aspects of it. I
Yeah.
didn't see that at all. really.
Yeah, me too.
Mm. All right, the second question was, Nora experiences a number of alternate lives in which she achieves a great deal of success in one area of her life at the expense of all the rest, be it music, swimming, or polar exploration. You know, that's another thing about this book. One thing I thought was a little unbelievable, how many excellent lives she would have had. Swimming, a famous band, studying on the glaciers. I mean, how many of us can do so many
Right.
things like that? I
Right.
mean, usually it's one or two, but. Do you think it's possible to reach fame and fortune in a single field and still maintain balance with other areas of your life? In the library, Nora learns that the life she gave her cat was the best one he could have experienced. Are there any parts of your life that you feel could not be improved by living it differently?
The point back to those things that she was fantastic, swimming and music. The only thing that held her down was her mother. Because when she was growing up, her mother just never thought she could be good enough. She always had to be fixed. And so I think that's how she grew life was, I'm not good enough. I have to fix this,
Mhm.
And then her cat, she was not responsible for the cat's death.
No.
The cat had a pre-existing problem with his heart.
Mhm.
So then she learned that. So sometimes we criticize our own selves and we don't have all the facts.
Mm.
So,
That's true.
True, it's true. Mhm.
so I think if she had a different mother, if she grew up differently, I think she would have,
Achieve maybe one of those.
or was fantastic in all of them.
Mhm.
She had that ability.
But that brings up the whole shoulda, coulda, woulda,
Yeah.
which you can do that too much.
Mhm.
Sometimes you just got to pull your big boy pants and
See, this is the way it
be
is.
responsible for
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
Then if you had a different mother, supportive mother, blah, 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 maybe Nora would have delved into these different things, be a glaciologist
true.
or be a musician. She seemed to have a lot of irons in the fire without ever bringing anything to fruition.
Mhm.
Maybe she was trying to find the thing that would please mom, or
Mm.
dad only got you to swim, and that was,
Yeah.
That's it. So
Wasn't
maybe
there a
they-
polar bear?
And she was attacked by a
She was
polar bear.
attacked
Oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot that part. Attacked by a polar bear. So,
A lot of modern things have had polar bear analogies. Like, I think the Lost, that program on television, that
Oh,
was,
yes.
whatever that was about also, the people that were in a plane crash, but there was like there'll be polar bears appear like in the jungle and people will be like, well, how did a polar bear get here? But I don't really know, and I love polar bears, but I don't understand what is the fascination with them? Like they just appear out of nowhere. And I'm thinking.
Maybe because they're endangered or
Here's a polar bear. Let's throw the polar bear in there.
maybe endangered or something. Yeah. Yes.
I would hazard a guess, I think maybe polar bears are always fighting for survival.
Bible.
So maybe this is just an analogy for being that is always just like trying to get ahead.
Could have been. I don't know what to say.
And also polar bears are relentless. I mean, if, unlike other bears, you can't scare them away. If they see you as food, that's it, you're food. So they're very relentless.
They'll hunt you hundreds of miles.
Right.
every minute.
Right.
Well, I collect them, but I've never
Oh.
met
Very good.
My dog's in 7 years in Alaska. They tell you how much he dislikes polar bears.
Yeah, I think that's.
Mhm.
They're very endangered, so that's why. I'm
Yes, yeah.
wondering if That's why he threw it in.
Was she attacked by a polar bear? I've forgotten. Yeah,
Yeah,
she was.
she was.
And she survived.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank God. She said, I don't want that long. That definitely is not my long.
Uh,
It's scary, is it though? You go flying into another life. And now you're
Yes.
minutes from having to take the stage
Yeah.
and sing.
Yes.
I've never heard of those.
Yeah.
I know.
Or
Mhm.
speak to a group. That'd be frightening.
Yeah,
That'd be so
yeah.
intimidating.
Mhm. Or her husband, she,
Yeah.
yeah, he
that's
wanted a
what
baby
that-
and she
yeah.
just arrived in that.
Yeah,
life.
right.
Yes. Mhm. Okay, the next question is, in her life before she finds herself in the Midnight Library, Nora gave up many of the pursuits that brought her joy because she didn't feel like she could be the best at them. Do you think it's understandable that she would have given these things up? Do you think that wanting to be the best at something can inhibit us from enjoying it?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, what
Look
happened?
at Olympic.
That's what I was just gonna say, the Olympics. Simone,
Mhm.
yeah, she didn't enjoy the Tokyo ones at all, did she, back then? 'Cause she was
Mhm.
trying
Well,
to
I
get-
know, like, and a lot of times it is sports oriented.
Mhm.
I had a roommate, she was an excellent swimmer, and she was very little, and she said the only reason she was, and she could have gone to the Olympics, the only reason she was really good is she was so little, she drove in and swam fast to get away from all the big muscular other girl swimmers. And she says that's what her secret was. And her records weren't broken for years in Maryland.
Oh, my
And,
goodness.
but they have been since, but just recently. And it's, but I have, in my lifetime, I've always noticed a lot of people that are really good at something, they really don't
Enjoy
enjoy it.
Mhm.
And it seems a shame.
Mostly it's sports, like you said.
Well, I
sports.
wanted to be,
Yes.
I love animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian,
Mhm.
but I was terrified. I was never good at math. Terrified of math, numbers.
Mhm.
And I said, well, I can't be a veterinarian because I can't do math.
Mhm.
And so that's stupid. I mean, I could have maybe learned to do math or do, I was
Just
good
the
at
basics.
science,
Mhm.
but not.
You were good at.
My daughter is a veterinarian and she is lousy at that.
See, and that was self-defeating by
Yeah.
yeah, math and stuff like that. So that, it was self, and I regret that to this day,
Mhm.
that I imposed that on myself.
So.
Or in your book of regrets.
Yes,
Yeah.
everybody has
Regrets,
Yeah.
yes. Mrs. Elm showed Nora the Book of Regrets when she first entered the library, and Nora was overwhelmed by it when she first looked in. But as she experienced more and more lives, her list of regrets began to shrink. Do you think by considering the ways in which our lives might have turned out differently, our regrets truly go away, or do we simply learn to live with them? Discuss that. You think they go away,
Really, I
or
could,
you learn to live with them?
they go away, because I'll think about, I could have done this or I could have done that. And it's like, I wouldn't have met my husband, I wouldn't have had these two girls, they wouldn't have met, even if I say maybe we should have moved somewhere else, those girls wouldn't have met their husbands, and I wouldn't have my 5 treasures. So that all comes back to my grandkids.
Mhm.
If I had done something different, I would have this.
Good family, that's
Mhm.
I
true.
love this.
Mhm.
It's true.
I think for me, it's like you gotta keep pushing forward. I mean, I could go back and rethink every decision. Why did I move to North Carolina? But at the end of the day, they did, and I'm here, so make the best of that. And I think that book really helped me understand.
Mhm. I felt like he was trying to say that also.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think maturity, the more mature you become as you get older, you realize that what, you know, you regret it, but what's the
You
point?
can't change
You
it,
know, Like
yes.
you just said, my life is the way it is because of this.
Mhm.
Because there's a difference, I think, between a regret and a really stupid decision you made along the way.
Mhm.
Because yes, sometimes you do make a really stupid decision and you have to live with consequences. But regret, I think, is more like, oh, why didn't I go to that college instead of that college? But like you say, you wouldn't have met your
Your husband.
future
yes.
husband or whatever.
Mhm.
Well, and if you go back to the religious part of it, if I was meant to be a vet, I would have been a vet.
True. 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 Mhm.
The questions are very deep.
There's only a couple more. These were,
Everybody needs to throw in a copay at the end of
I
that.
know, and sometimes I think, did it
Call your doctor.
did he just really try to write a story here? You know, that's it, or really these in-depth things?
He's trying to help himself.
Yes, yes, I think so, because he was, as I said, severely depressed. Mhm. Okay, in the world of Midnight Library, the books take on the role of portals into alternate realities. Do you think the role books played in the Midnight Library is similar to the role they play in your own life? Didn't someone already say
I
that?
said,
Ruth?
I think
Yes.
I'm just gonna bring up what I said
Mhm.
earlier. They
Yeah.
kind of can take you where you need to go at a
Mhm.
certain time.
Times.
And sometimes it's good, it's always good to throw in something like this that you maybe don't want to read or didn't intend to read,
Mhm.
because you can get stuck reading
Mhm.
all of the summer romance, beach novels, stuff like
Yes,
that.
yes.
But I think books are a great way
See other lives
to
and
learn many new
Mhm.
things.
Get to characters.
I agree, and I think especially for children, you know, if you to escape and to be something different, whatever genre it is, I think it's really good for everybody, but especially kids that might not be having a great
Mhm.
time in their life, which is pretend to be somewhere else
Else,
or
mhm.
imagine.
Mhm.
My 13-year-old granddaughter, after reading about this, can't wait for today to come and be over because she wants to buy it.
Oh.
Which this would be lighter for her because right now she's reading Exodus by Lena Uris.
Oh my
So
goodness.
she reads at a college level.
13?
13.
13.
Wow.
She's 13. So this might be a little
Lighter
lighter.
for her, yes.
Exodus was my favorite book, so she wanted to read it. Her mother said it was
Right.
so she read it.
This one, okay. Well, you'll have to let us know how she takes it, if she's on the love it or the hate it side.
Yes, I'd like to know how a young person would
Right,
really
would feel,
See what
yes.
Quinn does.
Mhm. Hmm. All right, as the story progresses, Nora finds herself in lives that she could be more satisfied with than others that prove more difficult. Do you think you would be able to live as an alternate version of yourself? Would you want to?
No.
No, because you would be true to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I think most of us are satisfied with our lives.
Mm-hmm. At this point in time, yeah.
And as I said, I wouldn't be, or what in some other direction, my life would be
Totally
how I
different.
think my life should be. You know, a
Mhm.
grandmother, you know, a mom,
Mhm.
those good things.
And we also never know what the future holds for us.
You
That's
could
true.
end up being a master chef one day.
Mane's assistant.
You just never know what's
Around
around.
the corner, true.
Could have been veterinarian, I think, because of our animals.
Yes,
They found out that we see some.
Yeah, true.
true, yes.
I had my own farm and I had,
Oh,
you know, and I trained horses and I trained dogs and stuff like that, so I worked with them. But I thought, if I could just be a veterinarian, math though, I just had this preconception about my math.
My daughter took calculus twice. She wanted to get the grade up to go to vet school. And she was being interviewed and she said something about her calculus not being. And the advisor, Colin Rex, says, you don't need calculus to get into vet school. I think she proposed to him.
And I thought you did, so that's one subject I understand.
I also think that like, there's always tomorrow. Like, if you're not a vet now, you could possibly do something with animals. There's always still time
Yeah, oh, I always
to,
thought that.
to do something different.
well, I always wanted to be an airline stewardess. All growing up, I wanted to be an airline stewardess. And my father had taken a trip back to England and he came home and said, oh, you don't want to do that. That's just a glorified waitress. Now, this was back, early 70s. I still would have loved it. And then all my friends were going on to college. It was kind of looked down upon at that time that you didn't go on to college. You were.
Didn't you have to be college educated though to be a flight attendant?
No,
Oh,
I had,
oh,
no, and I wanted to do international and my French was not very good. And I thought, well, my French is not good enough. And, I just never did it. I went on to college and I do regret that. But as you said, my life would have been totally different. I probably would not have met my husband and just would have.
You've been on Southwest.
Yes. Somebody could have been hitting me off. I know, and then we've traveled so much now, so I
It's
kind
hard
of.
on you. I've known airline stewardesses. It's hard on your health
Yes, okay.
internationally.
Me too. It's not this glamorous life, too, so.
Trying to think of what they have to deal with now.
Now,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I was thinking I would have been retired by now.
Yeah, right.
Frequent flyer, we can travel for free. Anybody else have a different career? Michelle, did you, or you always wanted to go in the libraries?
I should have always known because when I was like probably about 10 years old, I was putting spine labels on my sister's golden books, but it took me 40 years to figure it out. So
40 years.
yeah. So I went back to school it was 2012 and got my bachelor's degree and then went on because I was working at a library by then as an assistant. And I was like, this is pretty cool. I can do this. And my friends were all going to school and they were like, going to school later in life too. And I was like, okay, they're all doing it. I can do it. So I've just got my degree like 6 years ago. So here I am. So I was an older graduate, but yeah, I don't know why it took so long, but I've always been slow like that. So
Okay. One last question. Over the course of the book, Nora lives a whole spectrum of lives, some for minutes and some for months, but only at the end does time actually pass. And by the time she wakes up in her root life, it is 1 minute and 27 seconds past midnight, and her outlook on life has changed entirely. What do you think this says about the speed at which we decide things about our lives and ourselves? Does it take a lifetime or just a few seconds? I would say a few seconds, you can make a decision that can affect your whole life.
true.
The rest of your life.
I made a decision to relocate in a phone call.
Mm.
I was up in New Hampshire, just doing my thing. My son-in-law, who lived out there, called and said, the house across the street from me is coming up for sale. He said he wanted to move, my memories and what else. He wanted to move south now that Kevin's gone. And this would be perfect, it'd be right across the street. And it's like, yeah. So in that phone call.
In the phone call, wow, you changed your whole life.
That would be no more 3.5 feet of snow.
Yeah.
and chills 7 below 0.
Where were you coming from?
New Hampshire.
New Hampshire. Oh.
Whereabouts in New Hampshire?
Up by Lake Winnipesaukee.
Wow, a lot of stuff.
Well, we had one snowfall, it was 3.5 feet, that single snowfall. So
Wow.
it doesn't melt, so next snowfall is.
Yeah.
Didn't shovel a foot last year. Very happy, very happy.
Anybody else? A decision that changed in seconds or a long time?
Many.
Many. Mhm.
But we all make decisions to change our lives. every day.
Yes. Yeah.
Every time we drive, we make
Mm.
Decision, that's true,
Change our
yeah.
lives.
Mhm.
Whether you got that mammogram time.
Yeah.
Yes,
took
true.
Medication,
Mhm.
or made your husband a nice dinner
Dinner.
the night before.
Yes.
Before you asked him for something.
Something.
Yeah.
Hmm. All right, well, that's all the questions, and it was a very different book, so people felt strongly about it too. Loved it or hated it. So.
I
It
didn't
was a
like
great
the way the
discussion.
library was like disintegrating at the end too. Like I didn't really get that, where Miss Helen was hiding under the table and the books all started to burn. I guess is that
Oh, yeah, I
when she
forgot that.
came
part.
to her final decision. that
Mhm.
her
She
life
was
was
starting
okay,
to come
and then-
around. So it was all just happening in her
Yeah.
head, like a dream thing, that she's starting
So
to be
it's
revived.
disintegrating.
Interesting.
Yes, the
Yeah.
library
Mhm.
dissolving. and she
Interesting.
reviving.
Or if you bring in the religious, that could have been like Sodom and Gomorrah, the end of the Revelation.
Mhm.
I think I kind of got a little religious connotation. I kind of put the book out of my memory, but I think I remember that. I too agree with your religious analogies.
Hmm.
I think you've done a really good job pulling out
Yes.
positivity out of this. Jen.
Okay.
You did a great job. Thank you.
And all of you, it's been very interesting.
Yes,
It has been a great
yes,
discussion.
Good discussion. When I was out there, I saw your new books, and I had just finished this on my
that good?
iPad. This is very interesting. It's set in the late 50s, early 60s, and this woman is very, very intelligent. She's a translator at United Nations. Well, when she gets married, her husband doesn't want her to work anymore at all. And how hard it was for these women that were so intelligent, had been to college, and then they become housewives. I thought it was excellent.
Maybe we should
What's the
consider
name
that
of
for
it?
next year.
It's called a Woman of Intelligence. Yeah, she's written some other things.
There's a new book named The Last Chance Library. I saw that author.
Oh,
Have you all, either of you former, like, or current
out
and
there,
former
Michelle?
librarians
I
heard
don't-
of that?
I haven't heard of that last
I've
year.
heard
Library.
It's,
think I maybe even
and I
saw
thought,
it.
oh gosh, another book with library.
Library.
Yeah.
There are a
It's a
lot.
whole- I think it's a library like in a little area like this that they may lose the library and it's
Okay.
all part, I think it's kind of like a story of what it means to people. But it
Mhm.
sounded like it would be a very nice book.
Yeah.
It's like brand new.
Okay. There's a lot. There's the Paris
Yeah.
Library, several books about library.
Yep, that one I think we're reading in that evening book club, the Paris Library, December maybe?
Oh, you are?
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah, in the
Mhm.
evening book club. I know that I think we read The Giver of Stars, but if you read The Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek, she has a sequel coming out, The Daughter of Bookwoman of Troublesome Creek. So that one's coming out eventually, like coming up. So if you
Those are
enjoy that
about the
one.
women librarians on horseback in the
Yeah.
Appalachian Mountains.
Yes.
Both are, they're both.
The pack librarians,
both
yep.
of them, Pack librarians.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they were excellent books, both of them.
Yeah.
So that one I know is coming out, probably not in the next couple months or so.
I'm curious, did some of the people that were in this daytime group, are they now in the nighttime? So
I
they-
do have, like Jennifer has joined us in the evening a couple times, and
Mm-hmm.
Mary Green. We have,
But I mean, we haven't lost people.
no,
Okay.
nope.
Mhm.
Because I know that we have one or two who aren't able to join us during the day, but they're able to join, there are some people who can't make it during the
Work.
day,
It's
so.
I forgot all about it last time.
Yeah.
I read the book too.
Oh.
And I just got busy and I
It happens.
Oh.
It happens, but everybody is welcome. And we don't read the same book for number one. We're not competing for the same book, but just, for different,
Right, oh, yeah, right.
more opportunities. So you're welcome to join us for both or either, whichever.
This is just a funny story. The first time Michelle had that evening book club, Karen Hewen, my neighbor, asked me last minute did I want to go. And so we get here and Karen has to take a phone call about her moving. So it's just Michelle and I. And I thought, oh gosh, here we are, just Michelle and I. What are we going to talk about this new book? Then Karen joined us. We could not stop talking about books. We just kept, did you read this? Did you read this?
Yeah.
Did you like that? And so that's when we came up with Agatha Christie.
Yeah.
And because I
Yeah.
did not like that one about Agatha
Yeah.
Christie. And I'm sorry I was away to miss that one. So anyway, but we just got going and we
Yeah.
just, all of a sudden, all the books came together and for that
Yeah.
evening one too.
So for this club, next month's book is The Other Madisons. It's nonfiction. It's The Lost History of a President's Black Family by Betty Kirsch. And if you're interested in November attending the evening book club, which will be November 1st at 6 o'clock, we are reading another nonfiction book, but it's Know My Name by Chanel Miller. And if we haven't gotten that yet, it's coming.
Is it good?
I didn't like it. I researched it a lot, and I'm not gonna tell you what I researched.
Okay, until next time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever said this, Michelle, when you start these books, if you really like get to 50 or 100 pages and you don't like it, you don't have
Yeah,
to finish it.
right.
And then just come to the book club
Yeah.
and just say, well, I stopped, this is where I stopped. This is why I stopped.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you
Like, I
have to.
don't, it's not that I won't come, I just, because I listened about it, but I just. thought,
Yeah.
I'm not
Because
gonna-
there've been books that I haven't been able to, finish for whatever reason. Like The Bluest Eye, I read like the first paragraph, is like, I cannot get through this. So, there's things that you're not gonna be able to read, and that's okay, but you're still more welcome to join us, and tell
Because
us.
then if you hear about it, then you think, oh, maybe I should
Yeah,
go back and give that book
exactly.
another try.
Yeah, right,
Mhm.
exactly. Exactly.
Has anyone else read American Dirt?
Yes,
Yes.
I recommended it.
That's.
That's fast.
For
I
those
love
who
that.
have, that's excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because
I
some
don't
people
know if I
didn't.
could've done what she did.
You mean